All right, so let's get started. We're going to begin by sketching our whimsical Christmas bear out. And what I like to do is to take my pencil and kind of sketch, lightly sketch lines about like breaking it up, the canvas up into thirds horizontally, and maybe just do a half line vertically. And you do this line very lightly. I use hard lead. I like these little mechanical pencils for sketching this. Now, that will help us to draw a little bit more accurately when we're sketching. So I'm going to start by making kind of an oval frame for our bear. I think that it will just be a charming little addition. Make it look a little bit like a vintage frame. So make an arch here. If you feel like you need to, I guess you could use a compass or something. And then turn it, make an arch on this side. Try to keep it centered so that maybe about an inch in from the edges, you know. And I'm gonna make it rounded and here. And then I'm gonna go back here and kind of round it out. You can erase on your canvas too. Like, I think if you have unwanted lines, I like to just erase what I don't need, because sometimes it's just hard to cover, even with acrylics. And if you can erase it before you paint, I would just go ahead and do that. All right, so pretty happy with that. What do you guys think? How are you doing? Is this hard? Harder than it looks, at least for me. I was trying to think of an easy way to do this. I mean, if it was a circle, you just trace a pot or something. I guess you could trace edges of a circle, but I couldn't think of anything oval that most people would own to be able to trace. So, all right, here we go. Here's the oval. Now we have our lines, the third of the way down, third of the way up. So we're going to use those now as we draw our bear, because that line is, you know, the rule of thirds is just a really basic rule when you're sketching a composition, and it's just a pleasing to the eye when you rest your eyes at something a third of the way up or down or in. So we're gonna keep that in mind as we sketch our bear's eyes. I'm gonna make his brow along this line, okay? Now, how I like to make my whimsical little bears is they don't really have shoulders, but their bodies get wider down here. So we're gonna make sort of like a rectangle shape, and it will narrow up here. So let's see, we don't want to make them too small. We want to kind of fill in this frame, and get it wider down here. Okay, see, there's about an inch there. I'm going to do about an inch here, and that's with the 8x10 canvas. So if you have a bigger canvas, of course, you would have the ratio would be bigger. All right, so we've got this rectangle that kind of widens at the bottom. It's not perfect, but you know what? That's what I love about making these animals. They're just fun and whimsical, and they don't have to be perfect. They're childlike, which I think also makes them really fun for Christmas, because like normally, you know, I'd make these for a children's nursery or something, but at Christmas time, I feel like we're all children. So you can stick them up on a shelf and just like add a little bit of Christmas whimsy and magic to your holiday. All right, so what I'm doing now is I'm making these curved, almost like upside down U-shaped ears. And I just bring them straight up. This is the style that I use. And 2 bumps like that, okay? Now, for the bear's face. For the nose, I kind of make this wavy shape that it's like connecting the eyes, and then it goes down to the nose. How long do we want to make it? Maybe about like that. And then it comes back up again. And so we've got this brow here. See, and it's resting on that 3rd line that I was talking about, that line that's about 1/3 of the way. I'm just trying to sketch over to make it a little more centered. Mine's a little off. Okay, so there we go. Now, if you make it too like this, and you don't arch it here, you might have an angry looking bear, which, you know, you do whatever you want to do, but just beware, because if you don't kind of bring this down a little bit, he does tend to look a little disgruntled. All right, and then we're gonna have his little eyes here, and we'll paint that in later, but you know, just so you can kind of see where we're going with this. And his nose is like, I make these long, skinny kind of noses like that. All right, and from here, it's really, you can be so creative. Like, you can really have fun with accessories. Like, once you've got your basic animal portrait down, your basic bear portrait down, these are some from the past that I've done. Here's one, I don't know if you can see that. She's got a little wreath on her hair. You can do glasses, like this little guy. This guy has a headdress on, like a feather headdress, striped sweaters. But for the sake of like keeping it all Christmassy and everything, I'm gonna show you how to make the scarf in the hat. So, and this kind of helps define his, you know, the line between his face and his body, since he doesn't really have shoulders. But you just make an arched line here, stick it out, go past his outline, body outlined over here, and parallel line, parallel swoop under here. That's all there is to it. And then I kind of make a boxy knot, usually like rounded, and bring his scarf down like that. Maybe I'll do this. Make it a little more so it's not quite lined up like that. There we go. And then you could do stripes. I think I'll just do just gonna do stripes here, I guess. You know what? I changed my mind. I think I'm gonna make a let's see, is anyone up for the challenge? Like, if you want to do stripes, you just leave it like that. If you want to do, I'm gonna do plaid. I'm feeling a little wild today, so I'm gonna do plaid. I'll do that. And then here's his little Santa hat. We're just gonna make like a cute little ding, like a Hershey kiss up here. And that will be the fluffy ball up on top. All right, and then what else do I want to do? I might make him look like he's a little rosy cheeked. Have his cheeks there. And then this isn't really necessary because I'm going to be painting over it, but I'm going to show you. I think I'm going to add just this little like leaves going up the sides of this. Like that. Let's see what I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. All right. And that is our sketch. Okay, so for our paint, like I'm trying to keep it real basic here, so I'm gonna use red and green and brown for our bear. And can you see that? I feel like the shadow is a little weird. So specifically, I've got cadmium red, I've got, I want to say Hooker's green, and raw sienna. These can be craft paints, of course. They can be like, the Grumbacher is really nice, but the Artist Soft's a little more affordable. I've got titanium white and ivory black. Always use these guys because they're gonna lighten and darken as needed, and you can pretty much mix and create all kinds of shades and tints and shades with those. So I'm excited. Let's get started. I use these plastic trays. I got these at Goodwill, and see, that looks like this is the one I was just using to paint an ornament today. And they're really, they just, anytime, if you're using acrylics or craft paints, it should peel off when it dries or wash off. So that's what I like to use. All right, there's my red. You know what, I have green on this one, so forgive me for not making them all on this palette. Okay, that's my raw sienna. It looks a little goldenish. But that'll be okay. I might mix a little black with that, so that to make it a little darker. Possibly, well, maybe even red or green. So you know when you mix red or green, it turns brown. Did you already know that? Not sure who I'm talking to. All right, so here we go. That's what we're using. Not pretty? All right. First things first, let's take, if you have like a larger flat brush, this is what I'm going to use. I'm going to paint around the frame, and I'm going to do white just so it's like a nice, crisp, clean look. And even though, you know, even though the canvas is white, it's just not, you got to paint it so that you just smooth it out. You're gonna be covering up some of the pencil smudges too, and it's gonna have a nicer finish and sheen on it. I'm going to start mixing the color for the background here. So, I was thinking I would do light green, but actually now I'm thinking that I might want to do red, like a light pink. Yeah, I guess I'll just stick with my original thought. All right. So I made this green very light. These colors tend to dry darker, so I would err on the side of making this too light, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna come in later and make those leaves darker. So you've got like this nice tonal contrast going on. Now, I thought about, you know, you could make the background whatever color you want, really, but the bear is going to be brown. I mean, I want it to not totally blend into the background. So I'm picking a lighter color. And even though we're going to use brown, I really like to use as many shades as I can make, really, because it just adds a lot of interest and depth. Do you see that? So like I'm mixing as I go, and down here it's looking like really lighter than up here, almost like ombre. I'm gonna roll with that, okay? So this is not like perfect science. This doesn't have to be like totally solid in the background, but a little more green. And I'm just telling you how I do it. So like I'm kind of laid back when I paint. Like I just, you know, roll with whatever happens. Okay. Now this up here, I want to cover that because that pencil is not going to be covered by leaves. See how that lead is like blending? It like became paint. Okay, so I want to paint over this a little more, but sometimes you gotta let things dry. Sometimes you just can't do it. This might be dry enough. I'm gonna come back later because it's just not gonna cover well right now. And it's like drying darker, like I said, so I'm also gonna just do a light layer of white over this. I'm gonna have to come back later and touch up a little bit on the edges with white. Because I'm a little bit messy. But maybe you're being really careful the first time. All right. Okay, so there's our little guy. He's got a frame and a background. We're definitely going to need to let that dry really well before painting any leaves or anything like that. I'm rinsing my brush, and I always kind of wipe my brush off with paper towel. All right, and now I'm going to use a smaller flat brush and get it wet. And let's see. Now this raw sienna is looking almost like a mustardy color. Let's see what happens when we add black. That was too much black. Just a little bit. Now if you start adding black and white, what you're gonna get is grayish. And I mean, you could have a grayish bear, I guess. No, I'm gonna take a little red. It's looking a little bit more chocolatey. Okay, so this is like red, black, and burnt sienna. Like I said, I like to use a lot of different shades. So the raw sienna, I maybe should have found, let's see. Yeah, okay. See, I like that. Or if you don't want to do as much mixing, just find a brown you like. Or maybe like a burnt sienna. That might be a little more of a reddish. Okay, so I'm just gonna go paint my bear. I'm just painting him a solid color right now. If your paint is a little thick, you just can add some water. See how it's like, you see all the white canvas under there because it's not rolling on smooth? That is because it's not wet. Sometimes I even kind of approach acrylics like watercolor, and if I want it lighter, just water it down where I want it to be lighter. All right. Now the tricky part if you're mixing is to try to just keep a consistency. I'm not like a super consistent person, so I can remix, but it is tricky to get the exact color, but that's why I do so much dabbling in my paints and mixing of various like shades. Yeah, you can see some lighter and darker brown here, but it's all just because of the water. You know, what brush strokes had more water and what had less. All right. I'm just gonna paint over that for now, I guess. Okay. I'm gonna take a little bit darker brown. Let's see, is that gonna... I'm gonna just add like a little more black to it and do a little shading. So even a simple painting like this, you're gonna add so much depth to it. So I'm just like taking, this is just the same color that I mixed with a little more black in it. And I kind of dab a little bit, you know, like this kind of helps create texture. And to shade, so this, the eyes are deeper, so I want to make, I usually make the eyes darker back here, and sometimes I even use the bottom of my brush to like scrape the outline a little around the nose, or to add some texture with the back of my brush. All right, I think that's probably as complicated as I'm gonna make that. All right, and then we have to just let the bear dry. Oh, this hair off. Let the bear dry, and before we add any more layers to him. All right, so let's do this. Let's start working on that scarf. I'm gonna take white paint and just kind of paint over the scarf. This is gonna be my base color for a scarf. Try to cover up some of that pencil. Sometimes I even like to leave pencil. I mean, I'm like all over the place. There are no rules, right? Not really. Not with art. So, but if you want to cover the pencil, go ahead and paint over that. And round that knot out a little bit. Now this little hat up here, I want this to be white, and I want his little boom boom pom pom whatever to be white, because that's just going to be a traditional little Santa hat. And let's see, for finer details, use a round brush. This one's pretty teensy. I guess is the one I'm using. So let's take some of our red and let's see, is this dry? Just outline your Hershey Kiss. I'm gonna make it a little wiggly so it looks fluffy. I like this red. All right, that's cute, right? And then if we want to shade it, if you want to shade it a little, I mean, it's cute the way it is. You want to keep it simple. If you want to shade it, take a dab of black to mix with your red. This is going to make, almost like a burgundy or maroonish color. And again, you just kind of can dabble it on the edges. You might want to wait till it's dry because it will show up better, but yeah, I'm going to come back to that. All right, and then for the scarf, let's see. Okay, I'm going to switch back to my flat brush. Let's do this little guy. Okay, that white's not quite dry yet. And this red is kind of mixed with the white, but I like it. It's a little bit more, has like a little bit more of that vintagey feel to it. Like I'm gonna go this way. All right, I'm gonna rinse that. Let's do the red and the black again. So we're making like a darker red this time. We do it too dark, it's gonna just turn brown, you know, like a really reddish brown. right. You can barely tell, can't you? Okay, this isn't looking, I'm not super excited about how this looks right now, but I'm not going to worry about it because the great thing with acrylics is you can paint over. You can paint over it. You just have to be patient, wait for it to dry, which sometimes I'm not good at doing, but all right, yeah, I'm gonna wait. I'm not giving up on this yet. Okay, so let's let that dry. And while we're waiting for that to dry, why don't we take our tiny little round detail brush and let's work on the eyes and nose. This is gonna make this little guy come to life. You make a kind of like a long oval nose down here and give him these sweet little eyes. Oh, I just made a dot. You know what? I made the other one higher than I want, so all I'm gonna do is get a brush wet and lightly kind of like wet it down a little bit. All right. All right, so I decided to like use a lighter brown to try to just kind of add a little more contrast to my bear's face here. So his nose will kind of pop out a little more. So I mixed a little bit of the white with the brown I was using, which is with the raw sienna and the black. Yeah, I like that. So just adds a little more contrast, right, to our bear. Make his nose pop out a little bit more. Then I'm going to pull that color, the lighter brown, and pull that down through his body too. So his body and his head kind of look like they belong together. If it's not blending very well, you can just water your brush down a little bit. If you see a lot of white spots, like and the, you know, your canvas showing through, you can go grab some more paint and just kind of fill that in. And the goal here is just to kind of have it create a texture with like various shades of brown, so he looks a little bit fluffy, or at least hairy, like that. I'm going to use the dark brown again to kind of put underneath his hat. All right. Just touching up some little edges and corners. All right. Now I'm gonna let his fur dry a little bit more before I add his cheeks. What I'm gonna do now is to bring some green into his plaid scarf. So that's dry. Let's see. I'm just going to make a green stripe and all these vertical stripes. Now they're horizontal, but all right. I'm just adding a different tone of green here, so I add a little black, and I'm going to kind of outline this a little bit. Oh, he looks so cozy. All right, and then I'm gonna pull a vertical stripe through, or sorry, horizontal. Now it's vertical. Maybe I'll do this, little dashes or something next to it. Kind of makes it look like a plaid weave, right? All right, I think I'm gonna stop there with that. I don't know, maybe I'll break up some of the red a little bit and do white. Let's see. Oops. There, okay. Now I'm just gonna like clean up some of my edges a little. Define his nose a little bit more with like a watered down black. Just gonna water it down so it's like translucent. I don't want it to be too harsh of a line, you know, just enough. All right, and there he is. And I might add a little more contrast in his ears. Oh, we're getting so close to being done with this little guy. All right, and I think I'm gonna take some of that green and just, do I wanna do that? Like outline this little pom-pom up there. Maybe trace that a little bit. And then the final, oh, we gotta make his cheeks. Almost forgot. So we're gonna get the red and white and make a nice pink. And paint little pink circles here. You can water it down a little bit if you like don't want it to be so you know, opaque. If you want it to be more, I'm gonna see what happens if I dab it with my paper towel. Okay, that's kind of cute. All right, so now the final stage, guys. We are gonna make our frame like really pop here. And so we're gonna take our green, might even add a little white. I don't want it to be as light as this. I'm gonna add a little white, and I think I'm even gonna add a little black so it's like a little more olivey. Yeah. A little brown. Okay. So we are gonna trace as best we can around our oval, and let's at least go about eye level here with our bear. All right, that's all I'm gonna do for now because I'm just gonna do one side at a time. All right, so I'm gonna paint my leaves. I'm not gonna make them super big because I want it to be just like a sweet little compliment to the portrait. I don't want it to like steal the show. You're just, I can kind of see my pencil lines, but you're just outlining a leaf shape and then painting it in. All right. Now I'm gonna flip this over because I don't want to drag my hand like on this side. So now I'm gonna do this side upside down, but same thing. You're painting, you're tracing the outline. I'm gonna go up to about his eye level. Let's see, does that look right? Sometimes really turning things can really change your perspective and actually give you a better idea of what you're doing. Because sometimes our eyes fill in the blanks for us. But if we look at it out of context, we can sometimes see things that we normally don't catch. All right. Tracing the leaf shapes, painting them in. I'm using my, I don't want to, that's still a little wet, but you guys can take the time. You can pause, let things dry really well before you do this. That's an interesting leaf. That's I normally rest my hand on the canvas to kind of study it. All right. All right. There we have it. There was one more thing that I wanted to do that I thought might be cute. And that is to just like add some little berries in the frame. I didn't think there was any point in drawing them. Oh, okay. But now that that wreath is done, if you want to do this, if you want to go back in with some red and just make some little berries. I don't want to do anything too big because, like I said, I don't want to distract too much from my Christmas bear, but all right. Does that feel done? I think it's done. I think it's done. I like it. Let me just do one more thing to add a little more contrast to my leaves down here on the wreath. I'm gonna put like a darker edge to add a little bit of dimension to these leaves. It's just the green, hooker, the little black in it. Ta-da! Now it's done. I'll sit that on a little shelf and feel festive. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed that and had fun, and I would love to see if you guys do this. I would love to see how they turned out. Oh, look at me, I'm still painting. I just can't stop. I'm just gonna add a few more shades and tints here. Don't mind me. Oh boy, all right, I think I'm done. All right, bye everyone. Merry Christmas. I hope you had fun.